Hi everyone. I wanted to do a video about myself because a lot of people, especially when I'm looking for a job and stuff, that's one of the things that they wanted to know is about me. And I find that when I'm trying to do a resume or I'm trying to do a cover letter, uh, the details all get mixed up because people are not seeing the big picture about who I am and what I'm about, what I know, this kind of stuff. So things that I did that were important a long time ago now on my resume seem irrelevant. And so I wanted to go through and talk about everything that I've done in the past so that it gives them more of a full picture of who I am. So first of all, most people want to know when I talk to them, why did I come to Saipan? What's the reason I came to Saipan? Okay, so I'm going to talk about that as I go through this, but first I'm going to talk about my past. I grew up on a farm in Michigan, just outside of Detroit, in a rural area of Michigan, and I learned about farming. I worked the farm, I grew crops, I took care of the animals, and I sold pumpkins and vegetables in the fall. So that's when I first started learning about business, when I was really young. And I would take my money that I got from selling vegetables and I bought motorcycles and mini bikes and go-karts and stuff like that. So I learned about the value of work and business early on in my life. And then later on I started getting interested in electronics and CB radio, because my grandfather was a trucker and he got me introduced to CB radio, and that became my passion for a while. And then I got into music. I started playing music and got into playing electric guitar and that kind of stuff. And I got really passionate in music into high school. I started looking at it as something I wanted to do as a profession. So I really started trying hard, practicing music, learning music theory, all that kind of stuff. My father was a toolmaker in Ford Motor Company, so I did really well in metal shop and machine shop. I was acing machine shop. I got an apprenticeship for Ford Motor Company, but I turned it down because that's not really what I was into. I was into electronics, so I followed that path instead of following the machine shop path. A little later on, I started studying electronics a little bit more seriously, and I was playing in bands in high school, but nothing really worked out as far as music. I tried really hard with music, but nothing really worked out. And so because I had to be practical, I had to get a job, I joined the Air Force. And in the Air Force, I went to cook school and baking school, and then my first duty station was in Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama, where I worked in a hospital. I was working in a hospital. They got shorthanded on the other side of the hospital, which was diet therapy side, and I was always reading the diet therapy books on my breaks, so they made me a diet therapist and sent me to a training school and made me a diet therapist. So I got certified not only as a cook but also as a diet therapist. But my primary job description was a cook, so I was still able to go get jobs in other places that diet therapists can't go. Diet therapists can only work in hospitals. And so I went to Guam after Alabama, and in Guam I was a cook, and then I was a shift leader, and then I went and supervised a flight kitchen on the night shift. And then I went to the Philippines. But I got to know a lot of officers when I was working the flight kitchen, because they used to come over there and drink coffee with me. And the career fields between food service and hotels merged in the Air Force. And I started talking to all the officers, telling them, hey, I want to go work the hotel side. And so when I got my orders, they told me to go put in for orders. When I got my orders for the Philippines, I was put into the hotel side. And in the military, you're automatically made a supervisor in the hotel. You work, but you supervise employees if you're military, and they hire civilians to actually do the work. So I was a front desk supervisor for the night shift in the Philippines, for the hotel in the Philippines, for a couple of years, and then after that I went back to California for 6 months, and I worked front desk a little while, and then I was made a housekeeping supervisor. So I was a housekeeping supervisor for 6 months, and then I got out of the Air Force and I went to Hawaii. And when I went to Hawaii, I started working as a cook. I worked cook in Jack in the Box and Sizzlers, and but I was working in Woolworths for a little while as a retail clerk, cashier, and stock. And then, like I said, I worked as a cook in Jack in the Box and Sizzlers, and I worked as a waiter in Sizzlers, and I worked as a waiter in Denny's, and I worked for a short time as a waiter in Fridays in Hawaii. And so I have a lot of experience in the restaurant and food service, as well as then I started going towards computers more. I started going to Goodwill and Salvation Army and buying all their computers and fixing them, and I didn't even know what I was doing. So then I went to school to learn what I was doing. That was in 1996. I passed my I got my certificate for computer repair from Foley Belsall Institute. And at that time I was actually studying 5 different correspondence schools all at the same time for electronics and computer repair. And at one point I actually opened up an electronics business, but I closed that down because at the time I was doing a lot of VCRs, and then I realized they were designing VCRs to be disposable, not to fix them. So I just closed the electronic repair business down because most of the stuff that they were designing was designed to be thrown away. So I stopped doing that, and I just focused on computer repair. And then after I got into computer repair and started doing that a little bit, I realized that the only people who could afford to pay me to fix the computers was the people who were buying the computers throwing their old computers away and buying brand new. So the computer repair business wasn't really a profitable business, and I still don't think it is. I think there's a business for custom built PCs, but the majority of the people who want you to fix their computer can't really afford to have them fix their computer. So you wind up doing what I wound up doing was buying people, when they would throw them away, I would buy those computers for like $10, $15, fix them, and then turn around and sell them. That's the only way I could make money in computer repair. So then I started studying web design. I studied HTML4 and web development and a lot of different things, and I designed about 10 different websites. I think it's a little bit more than that, but most of them are closed down already. I only have one website up now that I'm maintaining. But so the thing that I didn't like about web design was that when I first got into web design and I started actually getting customers for web design, they had unrealistic expectations. Every single lady who wanted me to work on their website wanted me to do it every single day, and they weren't paying me enough to be able to, for that amount of time. I mean, every single day they wanted me to change this and change that and change this and change that. Well, that wasn't time effective or cost effective, because they weren't paying me that much. So I realized that a lot of web design jobs are not profitable either. So I steered a little bit away from web design, although I still do it today, but I do it for myself more than anything else. I have the knowledge, I just don't think it's profitable, but I can do it for another company if they're willing to pay me a decent amount of money. But as far, like I said, I don't think it's profitable. That's why I steered away from it. And then I started learning about all the different social media sites. I was into social media before it was a thing. I did MySpace, I did Yahoo 360, I did, I think it was called Livewire, and a couple other ones. And then Facebook came around. So I was doing social media before social media was a thing. And I still dabble around Facebook, and I do LinkedIn, and I have 2 YouTube channels, and so I know a little bit about social media and what's out there and what's happening. I sold $10,000 worth of stuff on eBay this year. Not too many people can even do that because they don't trust eBay, and actually I've steered away from eBay as well, because I got the same realization, is that eBay is not the best platform in the world to be working with. Right now I have a t-shirt shop online. I'm getting into the t-shirt design stuff, so I'm doing that. I learned about Canva. I can do Canva. I'm constantly learning new things with the internet. I like learning stuff on the computer and doing stuff on the computer. I know a couple of different emails. I know Windows applications and I know Linux. I use Linux Zorin right now on my machines, and I have Windows. I use Windows 7 and Windows 10, but Windows has a lot of limitations, and so on a daily basis I normally use Linux Zorin. It has a lot more flexibility. I can customize things a little bit more, and I was studying to be a systems administrator for Linux, so I like the idea of using the system that I'm going to be working with if I get into systems administration. Although I do still know a little bit about Windows and what systems administrators do with Windows too, but it's an ongoing process learning systems administration. But in the process of learning systems administration, I stumbled upon cybersecurity. And I was fascinated about cybersecurity. I was like, wow, this is just so cool. And basically what it is hacking. It's what hackers know. All the stuff that hackers know. Well, there's two sides to that story. You got the bad guys who hack the computers, and then you got the good guys who try to keep the hackers from hacking the computers. And in order to be able to know what you need to know to keep the bad guys from hacking the computers, or they call it ethical hacking, you have to know the same stuff the bad guys do. So I thought that was really fascinating to learn. So I went to Udemy. I went to Udemy website and I signed up. I enrolled in half a dozen different classes for cybersecurity and Linux systems administration. And I went for a refresher in web design and web development. So that's ongoing right now. I'm still enrolled in Udemy. I'm still doing Udemy. But I haven't finished that yet. But I still have an interest in doing it. I'm still going to do it. So after the Air Force, I got into computers, and then after I got into computers, that evolved down the road through 1998 to 2001. I had a huge website. It was a models website. I was getting hundreds of thousands of hits on that website, but it wasn't monetized. That's why. And I didn't at that time. Everybody was using the pop-ups and stuff like that, and I was one of the only guys on the web that wasn't using pop-ups, and I didn't have my site monetized. And the only ads that I had on my site was for friends that I had on the web that wanted me to help them out by putting a banner on my site. So I did that just as a favor, more or less, not a pay-per-click. And so I did that, and then that was one big website that I had that I was maintaining a long time ago. It was called Asian Obsessions. It featured all the Asian models from all over Asia, and they would send me their pics, and I would post them on. I make a profile for each model on my site, and and then I would coordinate with different photographers that were taking pictures of Asian models, and I would post their pics on my site and create. It was more about the models than it was about the photographers. I was highlighting or showcasing the models, and I would create a page for each model who is an Asian model for all over the world. Thai models, Japanese models, Chinese models, all over the world, Korean, and that site just blew up. It was huge. But in 2001, I started having a lot of problems with politics. The politicians started hounding me because of that site. Even though it was a swimsuit site, they were claiming it was a porn site. It wasn't a porn site. It was a swimsuit site. And but I had so much aggravation because of that. I just said screw it, and I shut the website down. But I still did it. You know, that's something that I did in the past that I designed and I developed, and it blew up and it was huge, and I learned what they call search engine optimization by doing that, because in order to be able to get that many hits on a website, you have to know how to do search engine optimization. So I learned how to do that, but I haven't done that since like 2001, but I still learned how to do it back then. And these are skills that I still could refresh and use again for someone else now. I really don't like marketing. I'm not into marketing. I will market my stuff most of the time if I have to, but it's not something that I really enjoy doing as a job. I like designing, I like creating, I like photography, I like camera work, I like computers, I like web development, but marketing, it's just not really my thing. So then after 2001, after I closed my site down, I was helping my mom remodel her house and stuff like that. So being that I had that opportunity to stay with her, I used that opportunity to just focus on my music, and I got into I recorded my first CD, and I made one documentary movie during that time. So I recorded my CD, and then I used the music from the CD on my documentary movie, which was called The Frozen Zone, because it was all about winter and all the things that you do in winter. And so I have experience in video in that way too. I had to do all my own video editing and everything back then, and I was using computers that were a lot slower then than are now, and cameras that were not as good then that are now too. So I have experience in doing video and editing and stuff like that, and audio editing, because I had to audio edit my own CD when I made my CD. I was a musician. I wasn't one of these rappers who go online and get drum beats and then try to put their vocals on top of that. I was actually playing the music. There was a couple of songs that I made on my CD that I used a computer to make the music, but all the other stuff, I was actually making the music. So that's something that I can say is a little bit different than half the music that's created today. Half the music that's created today is not even created by musicians. These guys are getting samples from other people and putting it all together, and then they call themselves as an artist. To me, it's kind of funny, but anyways, I made my CD, I made my documentary movie, but nothing ever happened from it. Nobody ever bought it. Nobody was ever interested in it. So I was feeling a little bit hopeless. I went to San Diego, California, thinking that things were going to change. I was going to be around a lot of artists. I thought maybe I would be able to get into music a little bit more, and maybe I would be able to get into the movie industry or something. Nothing ever happened. I went for an audition for what was that movie? Survivor. They didn't want me. I think they didn't want me because I knew how to survive in the jungle, and they actually like people who don't know how to survive. They like to take these city slickers out there who don't know what they're doing so they can laugh at them. But they didn't want me. But that was the only audition that I went on in San Diego. And then after I lived in San Diego for 12 years, I actually lived in Mexico, and I would come across the border and work in San Diego. I worked in hotels. I worked hotel front desk, night audit, the majority of the time. I worked Super 8 in Point Loma, and then I worked there for 4 years, and then I moved back to Guam because I love Guam, and I wanted to make my life there. But when I went to Guam, I worked in the Hilton in Guam for a while, but things didn't work out so well because my roommate was driving me crazy, and a girl at work was driving me crazy, and I just couldn't take it anymore. So it wasn't really about Guam, the reason why I left, and it wasn't really about the Hilton, the reason why I left. It was just because I had way too much stress in my personal life, and I just had to get away. So I went back to Mexico and went working in San Diego again for another 7-8 years. I started working in this one hotel. It was Super 8 in Imperial Beach, and a guy bought it, and so he acquired me, and then he moved me to a La Quinta hotel. I actually worked 2 other hotels, but he owned them. So then he eventually moved me to the La Quinta hotel, and I worked there for 7 years, night audit. And during that time I never went on vacation. I never had any sick days. And I wasn't the type of guy to always request days off for this or that, and I never came in late. So even though I was living in another country in Mexico, I was always on time. And I never was problematic. I never took vacations, never took sick days for 7 years. So, but then the political situation in California started to really go south, and this had an effect on my personal life everywhere. In Mexico, because they had mass immigration coming up from the south, and all these MS-13 gang members coming into Tijuana that were trying to get into the border. I had guys following me down the street talking shit when I was trying to cross the border, you know, and this was almost on a daily basis. This wasn't once in a while. And it wasn't like that before. Tijuana was a really nice place before all this immigration BS happened. And so I had to consider that factor, plus then I had to consider, after I got to work, California decided to pass all kinds of strange laws to decriminalize theft, which made my job harder. And then they started talking all kinds of trash about white people. I was like, why am I here? So I was like, I don't need this. And at that time I had already saved up, I already bought $20,000 worth of music equipment. I had it in a warehouse. I was ready to do something in music, because that's been what I wanted to do all my life. And because of the political situation, I was just like, screw this, I'm not staying here. And so I sold all my music equipment and came to Saipan. So in a way, I'm kind of like a refugee here in Saipan. But I looked at all the places in the world that I would want to live and raise a family, and out of all the places in the world that I want to live and raise a family, the best place I could think of was Saipan. I've been on Guam a couple of times, but Guam was a little too busy, and I wanted some place that was a little more quiet, relaxed, and had the opportunities that would afford me to be able to build a house on the beach, or, you know, do what I really wanted to do. You know, you can't build a house on the beach in Guam. It's impossible. It's all the land's either owned by the government or owned by rich people who are never going to sell the land. And you don't have nice beaches like this everywhere like you do in Saipan. In Saipan, there's nice beaches everywhere. The possibility of me building a house on the beach like this is highly likely. I mean, I could do that here. I can't do that in Guam. So that's one of the reasons I came to Saipan, is because the conditions in Saipan. And not only that, I married 1 Korean and 2 Filipinas in my life, and the population here is, majority of the population is all Asian. So I figured, if I had 3 Asian girls marry me in my life, I figured I'd probably do all right here. I mean, I at least would feel more comfortable than I do living in California, where everybody was starting to hate me just because I was white. I was like, I know these guys are not going to act like that. They might hear the noise, but then I don't think they're going to follow the trends that the Democratic Party has been putting out. And Saipan is governed by Republicans at this time. So I feel a little bit more safe here. I feel a little bit more relaxed here. So that's one of the reasons I came here, because I think it's a better place. I think it's one of the best places in the entire world. And what I would like to do here is, I thought a lot about maybe, I have this dream about having a tiki bar on the beach. That would be really cool. If I could make that happen, that would be nice. But it's going to take a long time. I got to get a job. I got to get situated, get myself stable, set my life up. But even though I'm into computers and all this stuff, I still like to chill. And I know there's a lot of other people who like to chill. I like to have a nice place to chill. So I think I would really like to open up a tiki bar somewhere, right on the beach somewhere. I think that would be really cool. So that's one of the things I'm thinking about doing. I'm also interested in getting into politics here in Saipan. I would like to support the Republican Party here in Saipan. I know that they can't vote or anything, but they do have a government here, and this government still makes its laws and rules here. And so I think that would be important to get involved. And so far what I've done is I planted a lot of trees since I've been here. I took garbage bags and walked up and down the beach and cleaned up all the garbage from off the beach. And there's a lot of it. It's an ongoing process. It never ends. But I got out there and did it, you know, and I just wanted to do little things that I could do to help Saipan, and because I like this place. And so that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm here. There's a lot of things I can do to help. And if you have a job that you want to consider me for, I would greatly appreciate it. That's a little bit about my life, what I did, and what I know. And I hope you find this useful. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.